It's Dothan High School Wolves football on your home for great country legends. 96.9 The Legend. And now it's the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show. I am Philip Jordan, the in-studio host and producer of Dothan Wolves football on 96.9 The Legend. Each week, Jerry Coleman and Ken Lambert sit down with Dothan Wolves head coach Jed Kennedy to review the previous game and preview the upcoming opponent. Tonight, Coach Jed Kennedy will look back at the Dothan Wolves game against Auburn High and preview tomorrow night's season finale against Godby out of Tallahassee. Now, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, Jerry Coleman and Ken Lambert will be joined by Dothan Wolves head coach Jed Kennedy right here on 96.9 The Legend. High school football season, and that means the Dothan Wolves are back on 96.9 The Legend. Every Thursday night, check out the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show with Jerry Coleman and Ken Lambert as they sit down with Dothan Wolves head coach Jed Kennedy about the previous game and preview the upcoming opponent. If you missed the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show, you can check out the podcast at wiregrassdailynews.com or go to your favorite podcast catcher and just type in Dothan High School Football. And of course, every Friday night, pregame starts at 6:45 and kickoff is at 7 for all the Dothan Wolves football action.
Welcome into the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show here on 96.9 The Legend. Coach, last Friday night, the team went up to Duck Sanford Stadium to take on the number one ranked Auburn Tigers in the state of Alabama. We know they're number one not only in state, but also, kind of clinched the region last week as being a region out winner. I thought we had a decent turnout of folks that made the trip. Big senior recognition night. And one thing Ken and I noted during pregame was they Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, they named off the football players, and it took like 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden here comes the band for another 20 minutes, and then finally we got ready for the kickoff. But Coach, kind of the environment and your first thoughts of the game last Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think it's one of the nicer stadiums in the state of Alabama to play in. It's a big venue. There's not a lot of space between the sidelines and the bleachers, and was a great crowd. Obviously, like you talked about, they're one of the best teams in the state. I think they're ranked top 25 in the country. They've got a lot of star power, and really no other way to put it other than it was a butt whooping, and we were on the not good side of it. So,
Coach, I know at least early on, as I look at numbers for A.J. Alexander, you were able to run the ball early on. I thought you got good movement up on the line. You were able to run between the tackles, and I mentioned on the radio that that was one of the few times when we've gone to Auburn and we were able to get on the edge for those guys. Usually their speed is so quick. Not that it's not now, but we had a couple of opportunities where we were able to kind of get AJ around the edge there. So running the football early on, I thought you guys did a pretty good job against that Auburn defense.
Yeah, really, I think it's just no secret right now we're playing without a quarterback. Sam hasn't played now for 3 weeks, and our backups are just young kids, and it kind of is what it is. And we're trying to be creative as possible to move the football, and we were. I mean, we came out. Really, we only had 1 3-and-out the whole night. We were able to muster first downs and keep our defense off the field. And, just looking back, really disappointed with how we played defensively. We didn't tackle very well. Gave up way too many explosive plays. And, against a team like that, it just can't happen. And as you know, when it seemed like it just steamrolled, and like I said, the only saving grace was, we were able to muster some first downs and keep their offense off the clock for some periods of time. But as soon as they came on, they're able to hit some quick scores. But it's over. You can't. It's. I would have loved to play them at full strength. Like I said, it's. You look at. It's really. It's the only game we haven't been in all year. 3 7-point losses, all to ranked teams, and like I said, I just don't know if that was our best foot forward. And at this point, like I said, it is what it is. We're as injury ravished as I think I've ever seen. I think we talked about we'll have 7 or 8 kids who started the first game of the year that will not start tomorrow against Godby. And I think the only good thing that's come about that is we have played a lot of young kids, and those kids now are into their 3rd or 4th start in a row. And I think that they've played better every week. And so it's like I said, it's. I mean, we're only playing Friday we played with 2 seniors on offense. Jaden Barnes only played the first series and a half or 2 series. And like I said, a lot of young kids are getting a lot of quality reps, and we don't make excuses at Dothan. We just find ways to continue pressing forward. And, had a great week of practice. Sadly, our last week of practice, it's never good when you have your last one. And, our goal is go out and play tough and play strong, get this record back to 5-5 and celebrate our seniors and move into a great offseason.
And Coach Ken and I will talk a lot tomorrow night about those seniors. But you mentioned a point about, some of those kids that have kind of had to step up in those spots. And of course, from the radio booth, our listeners always hear A.J. Alexander's, Jaden Barnes, T.J. Vickers, Smith on defense, Scott on defense. Talk about some of those players that for the last 3 weeks kind of filled in a slot, kind of the next man up, but, that we don't get to talk a lot about during the game, especially on that front line and other places where you've had to, fill some slots and some of those as well as on defense.
Well, the big thing was, we moved Aiden Jackson to outside tackle. He's a very good player for us, a junior. Colin Truitt has played inside tackle for us. He's just a sophomore. The other one is Don Warren. He has had a great year for us. He's just a sophomore. He's taking snaps at center. He's taking snaps at guard. Tomorrow, Kaleon Daniels is going to play some center for us. He's a young kid that hasn't played a bunch this year, but is certainly, a kid that we're going to have to lean on next year. So that's just 3 kids right there. Nick Johnson hasn't played a lot of snaps. We moved Case and Booth the defense, still taking some snaps on offense, but Nick has stepped in and played some snaps at receiver. So it's Ladarius Thomas at slot when, Jaden Barnes, he's battling an ankle injury. He didn't play much last Friday. He's another young player that's going to have to play for us next year. And Salathian Meadows had his first varsity game since the second game of the year. And he's a special, special talent. When he comes in the game, it allows us to move A.J. Alexander around a little bit and, put him back a slot where he played last year, do some different things. So, I think that the one good thing that has come, if you look at the last, against Jag and then against Smith, we were able to, when you lose people in the game, for example, when we lost Sam during the game against Carver, you're kind of at the mercy of what you are. And really it takes some time to build. So now that we know that we don't have Sam, we've been able to build some packages knowing that we don't have that kid at quarterback. And I think, like I said, you're able to see us, I think look different schematically. We're still running the single wing offense, but doing some different things. And you'll see some different ways tomorrow that we're going to get A.J. Alexander the ball. He's got to touch it 35, 40 times for us to have a chance. And I think if he does that, can be a good night for us.
Coach, I was going to mention Salathian Meadows. I had him for 8 carries, 34 yards, with some really physical runs in there. I know he had the protection on his elbow. He's been rehabbing and taken care of. And I told Jerry, you really wouldn't think about, an elbow. And I said, but as much as the ball gets tried to grab and taken away from you, I could see where that's, you want to make sure that thing was healthy. But that's something that I think we look forward to, is to having him and AJ in the backfield next year. I think that's a 1-2 punch for sure. I really like the way both of those guys run physical in between the tackles and go head up when they get into space.
And Salathian is probably the fastest player on our team. He's the one kid. If you remember back to the Childs game before he got hurt, he hit the one and took it 75 yards, and there was nobody catching him. So he'll bring us a different dynamic next year that, obviously with being hurt, we haven't been able to see this year. But, he's going to see a much increased workload tomorrow night. And again, our goal tomorrow is to win the football game. We don't, we're not looking at next year. But with that being said, because of the injuries and small senior class, we've become so young that you're kind of going to get a look tomorrow of kind of what things will look like next year with those 2 guys in the backfield.
All right, well, Coach, we're going to take a break, and then the other half of the side, we're going to talk about tomorrow night's game, where Coach Jonathan Halston brings in the Cougars from Godby out of Tallahassee into Rip Pugh Stadium for senior recognition night, and then kind of the final home game of the year. You're listening to the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show here on 96.9 The Legend.
96.9 The Legend is your connection to classic country legends. But Digio Strategies has other options too. News Talk 103.9 is your source for America's top news and entertainment shows like Rick and Bubba in the morning, Glenn Beck from 9 till 11 a.m., and Clay Travis and Buck Sexton middays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and others fill your day with the latest news and views from America's top conservative voices. America at Night and Coast to Coast AM keep you company and connected throughout the night. Plus, Fox News, the Alabama Radio Network, and Wiregrass Daily News keep you informed with national, international, state, and local news. And with more musical choices like All the Hits 106.7 KMX, Today's Country 95.5 WTVY, and Music 107.7. Digio Strategies gives you more choices and more variety. Listen on air, online, and on our apps. 96.9 The Legend is just the beginning.
Welcome into the second half of the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show, where tomorrow night Coach Jonathan Halston brings in a 6-2 Godby Cougar team into Riphew Stadium. They're coming in with a 5-game winning streak. Kind of a small number of kids, but definitely some offense.
Yeah, they got a receiver you'll see tomorrow, number 3. I mean, he is a playmaker. He's only a sophomore, and he's been offered by everybody in the country. And this team will take as many deep shots as anybody we've seen all year, and got a great quarterback. So certainly have our work cut out for that. I believe if we can prevent the big pass, that I think that we have a chance to play really, really well. And that group's had a real good week of practice over there. And like I said, I think it's going to come down to they've got number 3 at receiver, they've got number 6 at receiver, and a great quarterback. And if we can slow those 3 people down, we should be in good shape.
Coach, I was going to ask, I guess beyond just Friday night, but depending on which poll you look at, we've talked about the region all year long and how tough it's been. You've got one poll that's got 4 of our 8 teams in the top 10, and other polls there's 5 of those 8 teams in the top 10, and it's certainly been a buzzsaw this year. But this is a little bit different for playoffs for those top 4. At least that 3 and 4 team now are going to travel to the north. And I see one aspect where, hey, that's a positive thing. So we stop putting each other out of the playoffs within our region. But what do you think? I mean, some of those guys are going to have some long trips ahead of them that first week of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Enterprise is going to Austin. I mean, which is obviously way up there. I think it's good. I think, I love change. I mean, basically the quick version of how things will look is, you'll be matched up with a different region every year. So we will not be matched up with that region next year. It might be it'll be a different region. And then we're all put into 4 different quadrants. So you will not see another region opponent until the state semifinals. And the other possibility is there's also the possibility that 2 teams from the same region can meet and play for a state championship. And I think that ultimately the goal is to get the best 2 teams to the Super 7 playing for a state title. And by doing this, it's going to happen. I mean, it was just the same old, right? It was, the Huntsville schools played the Birmingham schools. Our region played the Mobile schools, and it was what it was. And then, due to the success of the regions, it seemed like we always had region crossover matches round 2. And it just, I think obviously we all want to continue to move our game forward and move it forward in the state. And I think that obviously going to this sort of playoff format is certainly going to, I think, add some excitement and some new matchups. And that's the big thing. How many times do people want to see Auburn versus Central in the second round? Or, it was, I think from my time at Enterprise and my time here, we've played Auburn 3 times in the last 5 years in the second round. Mm-hmm. So it's like, at some point it's about playing different people. And I think obviously the new way is going to set itself up to some great, great new matchups.
Yeah, I had that feeling Friday night there in Auburn and had those flashbacks. You find a way to kind of scrap and get in either a 3 or a 4 spot, and then you got to go and face a team like we saw on Friday night up at Auburn, like we've had to do before, and especially if you got some guys that are not 100% healthy. So I like this. I like this way it lays out, and you've already said talking about next year is you're going to find a way to get there. So we're looking forward to that.
And Coach, just kind of adding to that, what kind of I hate to get into nickels and quarters and dollars, but I mean that's an expensive trip. I think from Mobile was expensive, like we've done for the last 2 or 3 years, and going up north. I mean, what does that do to a team that knowing your opponent may be a 5 or 6 hour away drive trip?
Well, I think the one good thing about being down here is if you look at schools like us and Enterprise, we're used to taking long trips, 2-3 hours for region games. I think that's the thing it is expensive to travel like that. I mean, for us last year, when you add the buses, feeding the kids before the game, after the game, I mean, it's a $10,000 trip easy to go play a game down in Mobile. And, I think that's why obviously, support from communities is so big to help these out. Programs are self-funded, and, kind of what we raise is what we get to spend on our kids. But, I'm sure that there are people that will go stay overnight the night before. I've always been under the belief that anytime you can have kids sleep in their own bed, that's a great thing. And, and the second thing is, I think when you take 85, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, now you got to add the whole supervision in the hotel room to it. So, but I hope there's a point that we can have to address next year as we're debating on how far we want to, how we're going to handle a far trip if we're fortunate to do that.
That's a good problem to have, right? Coach, I was going to ask you a little bit. We talked earlier in the first segment, but the mood in the locker room, especially of these 17 seniors, have you talked to some of them where it's finally hitting them and they're saying, hey, it's my last Monday of practice. It's my last Tuesday of practice. They start counting. This probably is going to be the last run for me, and it's finally setting in.
It was, and it's sad. Spend a lot of time with these kids, and all they asked was, so today's the last Monday they'll ever have. And the reality is, you look at our seniors, maybe 3 of them will play college football. Most of them, tomorrow night will be the last time. And that's what, football is such a unique sport. And it's obviously I'm biased towards it because I coach it, but when you're done playing football, you're done. You don't call your buddies 5 years from now and say, let's pick up 22 guys and go play tackle football down at the park. It's just not how it works. I mean, when you take your helmet off and shoulder pads for the last time, you never play again. And playing catch in the backyard is not flag football. It's, if you think about, there's men's league in soccer, there's men's basketball leagues, there's slow pitch softball for people that play baseball. When you're done playing football, you're done. And all I just told our kids tonight afterwards, I said, we know tomorrow's it together as a group. This will be the last game of 2024. And why not underclassmen lay it all on the line for the seniors to end in a great way, and upperclassmen, why not lay it all on the line? Because this may be the last time that you play. And I told them, I said, we had seniors on last year's team that goal was to play college football, plan was to play college football, and they have not taken a snap since that game last year down at MGM.
Wow.
You just don't know. So why not go lay it on the line? And all they asked was, Coach, can we run a few plays? And we always call it best on best, where our best offense goes against our best defense. And we did that. And to be honest with you, if it was up to them, we'd probably still be out there doing it. I'm a person where I'm not going to let wins and losses define who we are as a program and what this year was. The reality is this: these kids have won 20 football games the last 3 years. You have to go back a long time to find a group that was a part of back-to-back 8-win seasons. Mm-hmm. And again, it's certainly not a season that we're accepting that it's. We know it's not the standard we have set for a program, but I told the kids the other day, I said, I'm not going to let anybody tell us this was a bad year. We just didn't win as many games as we had hoped to win. And, I just look at, I'm in this business because of relationships and the people and the kids. And, I'm just sad that tomorrow night's the last night I'm going to get to coach Zach Walker. Tomorrow night's the last time that I'll get to coach Gabe Smith and Ezekiel Scott and so on and so on and so on. Because, in 2024, there's a lot of things for kids to do outside of playing football. And we're a hard program to play for. We run it like a college program. It's a lot of time. It's physical. And these kids have made the choice to come every day and work and be a part of building this thing. Like I said, even though it wasn't a playoff appearance this year, we're not happy about it. But certainly they've helped us continue to push this program forward.
Well, Coach, that'll wrap us up. Tomorrow night is senior recognition night at Rip Hughes Stadium, where the Dothan High Wolves will take on the Cougars of Godby High School out of Tallahassee. Come out, and if you're not making the trip, or just take your radio. If you go watch the game, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock kick. You've been listening to the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show here on 96.9 The Legend.
You've been listening to Dothan High School Wolves football, exclusively on your home for great country legends, 96.9 The Legend.